Hello and welcome to another episode of the Old World Show. Today we're going to be looking at the state of play, look at the rise of the infantry blocks. Are they pushing out large targets? And is what's going on with the meta at the moment? Has it changed much? Because it sounds like it has. And also some experiences we've had with playing with these sort of new style of lists that are doing the circuit, and what's going on with the top armies at the moment. Where are they all up to with recent events and games we've been playing and witnessing? So today I'm joined by Tom and our good friend as well, James.
Hello.
How are we both doing?
Oh, magnificent, living the dream.
Fantastic.
Yep, same. Excellent.
You both sound very enthused for this lovely Wednesday evening recording. It's pre-Halloween. I hope you're all doing something exciting tomorrow from trick-or-treating. We're all dads here, aren't we? So, are you not?
Yep.
No, I got out of it. I got out of it this year. Yeah.
How do you manage to do stuff like this?
Well, I've never done trick or treating, and we've never celebrated it. Never done anything like it. So Lisa does that, and I man the fort, and
Oh, you're giving out the sweets for the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about you, James? Are you going trick-or-treating?
Probably get roped into it. As always.
Yeah, you're going to lead it. When you're roped into it, you got your outfit ready.
Chucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so kicking this off then, infantry blocks, they've become a thing. It's been talked about on a few different shows, a few different podcasts and YouTube channels that these big poison blocks of infantry with ranged weapons are doing the circuit. It's been, is it discovered, is that the right word to use, that they are good for killing large targets, since the FAQ that everybody in the unit can shoot, not just like volley firing or anything like that. It's everybody in that unit that can get in range can shoot at a large target. And when we start taking those numbers and times them by 90 plus, when you're shooting at a dragon or something, it starts to do actual some decent damage, even with dragons with like triple saves and things. So I've seen a lot with night goblins. The gentleman did really well, didn't he? A tournament that was on a couple of podcasts talking about his recent experiences seemed to caught a lot of people out by surprise. And now we're seeing it with Khemri. I think it was always kind of there with Khemri, but probably not as much as it is now with the size of units, because people used to take like the 30 mans or so.
Skirmisher.
Archer units, sorry, the blocks, because the skirmishers are capped at 20 man, but now we're seeing it like at 50 plus, and Beastmen can also do it. Anybody else? Who else can bring big blocks of poison shooting?
That's it for poison.
It is that, isn't it? Yeah,
poison shooting.
So everyone seems to be talking about these armies now and trying them out, and we've seen quite a few games with people using them. We've been using them ourselves. I know I played a game against Tom with it, and we played a game with it, so you could experience. We could have experienced it together. It was lovely. And James is in a tournament currently, SBOT online, the online square-based tournament, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just finished your second game, which we'll talk about in a moment. And so yeah, we've got some experiences behind there. Now, what's our thoughts on this? Where do we see this going, Tom?
It's interesting. I think that was very much like even 2-3 weeks ago. There was a thought that infantry weren't great, and this is really shaking it up. There's some obviously really good, strong ideas. I think people are maybe panicking a little bit about it, and it can seem quite oppressive. I'm going to talk about some of James's things, but actually, when you think about it, it doesn't do that much damage. It's the Tomb King one especially. It just doesn't die. That's the issue. It's the ultimate point denial, isn't it?
Well, there's two versions of the Tomb King archer blocks, as it were, which is interesting, isn't it? So there's the two versions. You got the sort of just generic 50-ish skeletons in a block with the poison amulet, and then you've got the cohort blob. I don't know if it's been coined a name yet. This unit, has it, James? Have you called anything spectacular?
It's the Royal Host, isn't it? Royal Host.
That's boring. It needs a better name. But anyway, there's two versions of it with the camera, which is nice. So James, what's your...
So units of infantry have always been quite good at point denial. I know when I was playing vampires a long time ago, there was a thought of why not just run massive units of whatever. But because like ghouls are poisoned as well, for example. But it's different when they're ranged. Range really is useful. Lets you interact from turn one. And I think most of these units are relying on some buffing spells.
Magical powers, yeah.
Yeah, to amp them up a bit more. So they're points denial, which is strong in a game where you need to get points to win the game. So that by having your eggs in one basket, it means you're less. Your opponent has to deal with that big unit. They have to do something to it to get you any points at all. And if you can put a lot of characters in there as well, it makes it even like a double whammy of points denial. And then the fact that now these shooting units, like I said, they're really good against large targets, especially. Then with volley fire means they're okay into some armies. Although volley fire is difficult to use for most of the time, but you can use it, so it gives you a bit of more options there. And then with these spells, you can just do damage over 5-6 turns with these units, and it might not be great damage, but it'll be just enough to get you some points. And because your unit is so expensive, it means your rest of your points are pretty safe.
Yeah.
So it lets you build up a little bit of a lead. And I think I'd say Tomb Kings and Goblins probably do it the best. The Beastman probably doesn't have as much synergy, but it's still okay. If you want to do it with Beastman, you can do it. And they can also do it in combat as well. Some decent combat units.
Yep.
But shooting is just better. At the moment, anyway, it just seems to work better.
Should we play 40k? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so the thing is, there are ways to counter it, but it's not the way we've been playing at the moment with big monsters and things. They don't work into this unless you've got 2-up save, basically. 2-up saves in it can keep you alive. If you're a 3-up save or worse, you're gonna get killed instantly if you're a live target. We haven't seen any immune to poison items yet or anything like that. There used to be chariots used to be immune to poison. That's not in the game anymore. We also haven't seen many ballistic skill modifying armies much. There's a few items here and there, but they only work on goblins. I think if the Tomb Kings, if that would, if say they could hit on a 5, but if they had -2 to hit, it didn't turn their poison off, suddenly that unit wouldn't be as good. So we're not seeing much of that. I think if people start realizing this is a thing, there is ways to counter it, but it's not certainly a big shift in the meta. Yeah, big change.
Certainly, yeah. And with these poison blocks that we're talking about, for anyone who isn't aware, so they, as James said there, so they're based around. I mean, I don't know what the unit sizes we're talking, but it's minimum 50, going towards 100, really, isn't it? Of either
Can
goblins.
get bigger, but it can get bigger. But yeah, hundreds. I think 100 was the problem you have is if you start to go too wide, the unit starts to become very difficult to maneuver, even with teleport pathways. And also there is there's a nice amount of ranks to how deep you are, because obviously you need to be able to deploy the table. I've been personally finding 13 is a very nice number. 13 wide is not too crazy wide, but it's also deep. And you get enough models to shoot with, but also gives you enough depth to not be too deep, but give you all the ranks, everything you need as well.
You never want to go too deep, and that you want to go like an odd number, don't you? Really, because
the odd number with the volley fire.
Because with volley fire, you fire each rank behind the first. Half of that unit rounding up gets to fire, so you may as well go an odd number to benefit the most, mightn't you? So with we've got the mortuary cult have it, and I that's what I've been using with mine, a block of 50. It's not been the base of the army; it's more based around the leadership debuffing and then hitting people with caskets of souls. You got the Shapter doing some damage, lots of bits of chipping going on here and there if the leadership buffing doesn't work, but it's nice to have to help take down large targets easier.
Then
you've got the goblins also do the same thing. It's a big part of their list, but it's not the only thing that's in there. It's not super expensive for goblins either, but the idea is the same as with the Chemi. It's backed up with wizards, level 4s, 2s, quite a few casters, really, isn't it? To make sure, one, you get travel muster pathways. You get the spell if you haven't got Lore Familiar. You also then cast it, so people are taking power scrolls because it's quite important that this spell goes off. Travel muster pathways to boost and move the unit to be where it needs to be, especially if they've got short bows and they're not quite as long range.
Yeah.
Especially they're going for a dragon and they want to try and catch it out. And then you've got a army that's took it to the extreme, which is this cohort royal host for Tomb Kings, where we're looking at taking 110, 20, 30, 180 for some people. Skeletons, usually just the 10 spearmen and shield guys at the front, and then 100 plus archers at the back. And then they've got the characters in there as well. But the cohort's doing it differently because it's trying to have chariot kings that are in the middle with royal guards to make it super points denial, because that is the army. It's just that one unit and then 2 other units just to sit there, and scorpions as well, because it kind of helps with the ambushing and lowering your drop counts, taking out war machines and things like that. But that is the ultimate points denial unit, and it's not something we've seen really before, is it?
No, not when we're thinking about poison shooting, especially. I think the goblin list is really interesting because the goblin list has got the most output of any of these lists. The goblin unit can one tap pretty much any large target in the game from even the tub save. If you have all the buffs on, it just dies. Whereas the roll host can't do that. But the goblin unit has got all the weaknesses of goblins in that they are toughness 3 with no save,
and they stay dead as well, which is a big thing.
Dead. Yeah. And they also are not unbreakable. There are ways to mitigate psychology and running away, but it's definitely, you have to think more. Whereas the Tomb Kings have got the advantage that they are so reliable that they can do all the things without running away. And if you lose 20 guys, well, you can probably bring back 15 a turn.
Yeah.
So you're not too worried about losing models to dangerous terrain or to a random
any damage.
You just don't really care. Which is very demoralising to play against because there's not a lot. You're getting no points.
Yeah.
Now there are weaknesses to these units because the goblins have got more because they have fanatics. Fanatics is like another way of doing damage in a different phase, which is really useful because that's one weakness of this royal host unit is that it only does shooting really. And it's got some combat. Of course, it's good in combat, but you're really a shooting unit. Whereas the goblin unit will have damage in the magic phase. Across the multiple phases, it'll also have fanatic damage, and it will have shooting damage. It can also go in combat and not be absolutely awful as well. So it's got different amounts of damage. It also has other things in the list like doom divers and hoppers and whatever nonsense you want to put in. You can put whatever you want in. You have war bosses and weapons. You can still have all that stuff. Whereas, as you said, the Tomb King unit is just a big unit of nothing else apart from maybe some scorpions. Maybe some crap at the side, which is fine. They don't do anything else.
And with the Tomb Kings, like I found when played the games with the royal host, is that like you said, the shooting, it's not wiping something like big units out in a turn. It can kill a 5-man, fairly weak unit pretty easily, or maybe a little bit bigger than a 5-man pretty easily from the poison shooting, but it's not doing mega damage.
No, it gets like so. The unit I'm running using this SBOT is 117 models. 10 are
117. You say?
Yeah, 117, and so 10 are spearmen. So it's 107 archers, and they fire in the normal formation. They'll fire 66 shots, which is enough to. It's like 30 with a reroll ones buff. It's like 13 poison plus about that many hits. So against a dragon, it's like 15 wounds. Which is not killing a dragon, but it's putting it's. Well, sorry. It's 15
more than that shot to the dragon.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean like a normal unit. Like I say, a 4-up save, you're going to kill like half the squad, or you're going to kill anything lightly armored is going to die. But against a dragon, has 100 shots, so that will put a significant amount of wounds on it. It'll put like 23-ish wounds on it, which is enough to severely hurt it. And then because you can volley fire, stand and shoot, which is what this
that's the big thing.
Do.
Yeah.
That you can basically kill whatever you try to charge you, or at least get a lot of combat revs against it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're having to hit you into a unit with like 3 combat models. And then you can obviously have lots of buffs on that unit, which can make them quite difficult to kill themselves.
Yeah. The high weapon skill not high weapon. The characters are quite high weapon skill. The normal guys are at least weapon skill 4 for generic skeletons.
Yeah, which is great for skeletons. That's really strong. And then if you're illusion, minus one to hit, very hard to get rid of. Yeah,
You're
it's,
coming back alive, so it's just a right
Mhm.
kick while you're down, isn't it? Really, that's the biggest thing is the fact that it's just winning the grind. It's not doing big damage, but it's just grinding you down morally as well as in the game. It's so
Oh yeah,
it's so annoying.
Yeah,
Playing with it, you can feel your opponents, dying inside.
yeah.
yeah, but both these lists actually are lists that if you don't think about them before you're making a list, it's very, very hard to deal with.
The
Yeah,
the problem is though on that point as well is that when you do think about them, it's really hard to make a list that can deal with that and everything else.
that's the thing.
Like, you can make a pretty good list that actually shuts it down, but then it's just going to get like stomped by the next competitive build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we try to make
Um,
lists, haven't we? Where they're like it's like
Mhm.
super tanky. It's like cool. I can win. I can grind you, or can keep your uh, your skeleton block just held there in combat. We both just sit there. No one's going to be running away. And I've put all these points into this big unit. It's getting all these buffs. Blah blah blah. You're thinking, okay, well, what if you play somebody who's not the cohort? And you're like, well, yeah, I'm really slow. I'm not actually gonna. I'm never gonna catch anybody, am I? And it's like, well,
Yeah,
that's
I had this discussion with Ed with his because Ed's bringing a dark elf. He's trying a dark elf list. I think actually has
I think
some
it's
play
okay
into
against
it.
everyone else, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's okay into everything else, but it's definitely not great into everything else. So, like for example, maybe playing like wood elves with multiple pillars of fire. It's pretty difficult for him to deal with. I think still, um, but if you don't have a list that can deal with the cohort at all, you're basically just giving that game up. Which maybe you don't think it's going to be in events, but I think it will be. I don't think it's that hard to build and paint 120ish skeletons. I think that's probably
No,
reasonable to do.
I think most Tomb King players who are just generic collectors anyway probably have
you
nearly
probably have that, yeah.
most of
Yeah.
that. And it'll be a case of buying a couple of more boxes of skeletons.
Yeah.
Usually.
Are they going to play it over Mortal Cult? Because Mortal Cult's also very good. I mean, to be fair, Mortal Cult played well is probably just as good, but it does have it is got some weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is the cohort the cohort army isn't getting big wins, as you've probably seen, unless people are literally just don't know what they're doing against it and throwing things at you in combat, and you're just grinding them away and then running them down. Whereas the Mortuary Cult can just get big wins with their poison block as well as the rest of their army.
Yeah,
So that's part of the difference there.
yeah, and the goblins are bringing fanatics, which still are difficult to deal with for some. Like Bretonians really struggle with fanatics. Don't have a lot of ways to deal with that. They're just gonna have to eat the fanatic damage, which is pretty horrendous when you have all solo shooting to back it up. But some armies like wood elves, fanatics not really a big deal.
Yeah.
But the Doom Divers are a big deal. So that army has got more weaknesses, but it can definitely do more damage. It's definitely way more dynamic than the Tomb King list, which I think the Tomb King list, the Royal Host list, almost breaks the game down to a mathematical equation where can you kill X, Y, Z? Yes, I can. Okay, this is not a game. But the best counters for probably all these lists is you need to have a strong defense against mystical pathways because that spell is like stupid spell on these big units.
I was thinking about this. Wouldn't like a really nice simple fix to that spell be that like nothing in the unit can move more than 12 inches?
I'd probably increase it to, or maybe I don't know. I would because some units that's not too bad if it's like a small unit, but if you've got a fairly medium-sized unit, you're not really moving anywhere. It's
Well,
basically
yeah,
just a bit of
that's
a
the point.
shuttle.
It's only meant to be like 12, like a 12-inch move. I don't think the intention of that spell was to have it so that these massive blocks, you'll have some models moving like 40 inches in a turn.
I mean,
Like,
I've never travelled down a mystical pathway myself, but I feel like 12 inches is not very far to sort of go.
there's plenty. Trust me. Trust me.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
games wise, we've played some games with these blocks. Now, the game me and Tom played, we were gonna have a chat about and see, what was interesting from it, what happened, but it didn't end up being as probably as fun as we thought it would be to talk about. So that was the cohort blob into Bretonians, and we were just testing it out to see what happened, and it was pretty. I don't know how to describe it, Tom.
Dire,
It
I
was
would
pretty,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, dire for the Bretonians. It wasn't great.
Yeah, they basically crashed into this wall of skeletons and bones and then just bounced off.
No, to be fair, actually, they won quite significantly as well by a significant margin the first combat.
Oh yeah. So when you had the first charge and you got your
Yeah.
first charge off, yeah. But
It's like-
it wasn't. It was not going to break the back of
No.
115, 16 models or something at the unit. Because I have 96 archers, 10 spearmen, and then the characters in there. Anyway, so we just had to see what it was like. The shooting was okay. It wasn't wiping out units of knights in one go, but it was doing, Pegasus charged. Shots from Pegasus did 3 wounds in shooting from normally, which was not great. And then you charged, then I did 4 wounds. So you ended up charging with this like part of a unit, which then the Tomb King ground down, didn't they? And the Heralds with the great weapons. So yeah, interesting to see it in action, and we took some good learning points from it. So moving on to James's SBOT games
And his magical changing background.
and his
Yeah.
background. You've just played your second round now, haven't you? So give us a quick, just brief rundown of those 2 games and what it's been like with that list.
The first game I played against Empire, and the Empire opponent, so it was basically Empire gun line, and the issue with the gun line is it doesn't really have enough shots to kill the unit quick enough that they're going to at least pick up a good amount of points. So he did kill, I'd say over the course of the game, he maybe killed 50, 60, maybe even 70 skeletons. But
It's quite a lot, but you read them all.
But I'm healing maybe 10 a turn, which is enough to keep them from. And then obviously, but when you do cast the illusion buff on, it's enough to make the Empire gun line like shooting.
The mouse one to hit buff, you mean
the robe, yeah. And so I targeted the cannons first because the cannons are quite scary. And once
because they can snipe out your characters, is that why?
Yeah, snipe characters, and they also. I did go a bit wider than normal, but they still hit a lot of models. Still hitting like 8, 9, 10 models a time every time they shoot, and they just rack up kills. So killed them quite quickly. And the Scorpions were really good in that game. The Scorpions put a lot of pressure on him. He couldn't really ignore them, and they were able to go through some of his artillery and through his back lines. And then the second game I played against Wood Elves, and that game was much more difficult for my opponent because it was Mountain Pass, which is a narrow deployment. Yeah. And that meant he didn't have any space to really go anywhere. He just kind of had to either really hide or try and deal with my unit. And the Wood Elves just don't really have the way of dealing with that unit, apart from trying to get the other units, the Scorpions, and try and kill them. But I just deployed them at the back of the table and just left them, and just used the big brick. And just I knew I would get 500-ish points doing that. So it's not a very fun way to play, but I guess this is where we thought we would try this list out in this kind of event where you can play these kind of games and not feel too bad because it's obviously everyone's learning.
You can't see the guy's face, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, you feel
can't see their heart breaking.
But obviously, it's definitely, it would be more difficult to play this kind of list in person because you'd have to. If your opponents understood, they were like, "You're right, we're going to play these kind of lists." It's fine. Like you can turn up with screams and this kind of list, and because there are definitely counters to it. But if you're playing at the club, or you don't want to turn up with this list because these lists they're completely non-interactive for your opponent. So
yeah, they're no fun lists, aren't they? So the game with the Wood Elves, sorry, what was the end score there with that? Did you get the 500 points? Or?
Yeah, I killed about 700-ish points. So it was I think it was a 14-6, which was fine. Kind of was the aim for that game. I knew unless he ran at me, I was never absolutely battering.
No, he sort of played it quite reserved. Was with these games, were your opponents unsure how to play against the list, or were they prepared for it and understood what was going on?
Yeah, they kind of understood how it was going to work, but these players are both clearly players who didn't fully understood how it was going to play, and they didn't know fully how the rules work. I think it is quite confusing to understand how both players don't quite understand how. I don't think people understand quite how many shots you're firing with volley fire. They kind of just take my word for it. I've got like a little Excel spreadsheet.
Does it count it with you? Like, hang on a second, let me just count what you're doing.
Yeah, you do go through it with them, but I've got a little spreadsheet that works out how if I'm that wide, how many I should get, which is
that's nerdy. I like it.
Which is the way to do it. I think otherwise you lose track yourself.
I mean, it's just quite frankly, it's just not a game of Warhammer Fantasy without an Excel spreadsheet. Honestly,
yeah,
put some bookkeeping going on.
Yeah.
So Okay, so you played those 2 games, and with the Wood Elves, then that's an interesting one because was it a traditional Wood Elf list, what you tend to see with all the Pillars of Fire and stuff?
Yeah, it had some wild riders in, which actually don't help in that
You
game
see
because
those?
they
Yeah,
can't really deal with this list because they just get volley fired off when they charge. So
it's
they're
paying the charge.
yeah, so you almost don't want them in that game. You almost just want more other little bits running around and just trying because really their aim is to try and kill the rest of your army, to try and
Yeah,
get those couple of 100 points, and then they're going to try and avoid you killing them. And it's possible because they have a lot of evasive, so they can run away from your shooting,
yeah, that's
and
true.
you don't really have any way of stopping them denying your spells because Oaken Stave is very very good against level 2s.
Yeah, yeah.
So really, you're just trying to kill one thing a turn. And it's going to be not a lot of points. So
Di-
it's quite a difficult game. But if you do get a teleport pathways up into a good position, that is they can't really stop you from then doing a lot of damage after that.
Yeah, they can become unstuck, especially if you infiltrate their little forest defense line.
Yeah, once you get in
So,
there, yeah.
we obviously Wood Elves are one of the top armies here,
Very good.
especially with Pillar of Fire span, which you'd think would be great, just sat bouncing through a 100-man unit. You just roll loads of dice there. But did you find that was scary at all with 4 pillars or 5 pillars just going through?
Well, not particularly because you can stop. Well, you hope you can turn them off for one turn with the canopy thing, which is pretty strong. You at least it stops. At
That tells
least it
me you
stops.
failed it.
Yeah, I did fail in that game, but it does normally mean you can stop it for at least one of the turns, one of the players' turns. It turns it off for.
Just explain
And
what you're talking about there, by the way. Sorry, in case anybody
so
doesn't know.
it's an arcane item that you take a leadership check, and if you pass it, you dispel all remaining play spells from the table,
Wow.
which is quite
Freeze
strong.
access, yeah.
It's quite strong. I put it on a Lich Priest because I wanted to put the Shield of Petra on the Tomb King. I probably actually shouldn't have just done that. I think I just dropped the Shield of Petra and just kept the canopy on the.
Is that a one use only, or
Yeah,
is that
Yeah, when you're
okay?
saying yeah.
Okay,
30
wow.
points, I think, or 35, and
That's cool though.
it's good
Yeah.
on the Tomb Kings because you've got the BSB, you can re-roll that leadership test. It makes it a little bit more reliable, but it's a great
Yeah.
defense piece against Wood Elves at least anyway because
But,
like I said,
I'm so sorry.
Takes all their trees and everything else.
yeah, one of my favorite items that in the Mortrical.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
having a lot of pillars coming in Mortrical sort of defense line, it can just absolutely ruin it. So it's one of the big counters I felt. Well, not big counters, but one of the big problems is Wood Elves. So.
yeah. Once you can get into if you can dispel them, and then you can get your level 2 around their little sisters like bubble, then you can
Yeah,
start trying to put some pressure on them. Because the unit's quite wide, you can put like a Tomb King on one side of the unit who's level 1. I mean, say level 1, but at least it's a 2d6 with a +1 roll against every time they're trying to cast. Yeah, I mean, and there's a chance you stop it, right? They have to roll a 9, and then a 7 with +2, and then you're trying to roll a 9 at that point as well, like a straight 9, and there's like a 1 in 3 to get that 9, so you can do it. It's not impossible. And then, of course, it gives you dispel as well on your turn, so you get almost 2 chances every time to dispel it. So the key is to be able to get in that teleport pathways into the right position.
yeah.
And the Wood Elf player wants to probably stop that if they can by either screening or by dispelling it with Oaken Stave Wizard. Very strong.
Well, speaking of this, then, so what do we think are counters to these styles of lists? I know we've not just the Chinkings, the Goblins as well. Are these going to be an issue in the meta now? Are they going to be something that's, like you said,
Yeah,
you turn to tournaments, this list, this cohort list anyway. This is classed as not being fun for the general user. Are these going to be issues and problems for people at tournaments?
yeah, probably.
There's a few answers to them, but yeah.
What are the answers?
Well, I mean, we're talking about potentially high elves with falls on making. If you can get that in there,
Hmm.
to destroy the poison items, to destroy. I don't
Just
know.
take it apart piece by piece, basically.
Well, yeah, basically. I mean, what else? I mean, it's a very short range spell. Is the only issue.
What range
So
is it?
12 inches.
It's very
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
Another issue with it is it's quite a high casting value,
hmm
and if these units take magic resistance, it makes it even more difficult to. It's quite a hard spell to then cast. Yeah, I don't know how. Like, it's a good, definitely an option. You'd rather have that than not have it.
hmm
But if say that they're magic resistance 2, you have to roll like a 13 to get it off minimum, and that's not easy to
So
get.
you need to say like a power scroll or something
Yeah, you probably need like a level 4 with a power scroll,
yeah.
which I think power scrolls have been underused so far, and we're going to see.
See them a lot now, though, aren't we?
And I think we're going to maybe even see dispel scrolls now coming out, because I think that
Yeah.
be able to stop a teleport pathway can literally win you the game in some cases. So I think there are items that can auto dispel. I know high elves
Yeah.
can auto dispel item, and so can dwarves.
Dwarves as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're useful.
That's one of the things that I've been looking at and trying my best to write a list today. But it's just like I say, every time I write one, I just think it's just going to get beaten by everything else. But if you can make a fast, tough dwarf unit with the anvil with double move and maybe a mine like a mining cart with the runesmith with a couple of dispel runes to shut down whatever there is. But the problem is that by the time you're done with that, it's like well over half your points in like one unit. Um, it's just I don't know if that's going to be any good. I know Rich has been running a few variants of it from Dowie After Dark, and he seems to think it's pretty good. But whenever I write it, I just think it's just not got enough for
Yeah.
for other games.
Yeah, I think
Really,
you're going to see items that can stop stand and shoot being very useful. Like Protagons can do that, which is
yeah,
almost going to be an auto take item, I think now, because the best thing on Pegasus is to have no stand and shoot. I think you're going to see
the
potentially some ballistic skill modifiers coming in, because they are very strong against night goblins. Not so strong against Tomb Kings, of course, but good into those games. So if you can get -2 or -3 to hit on the night goblins, you can make them not do any poison damage at all. It's very good.
It's as well the other banner that Brett's have that give you reroll hits against missile units with the missile weapons. Especially if there's going to be like Glitter Grove and there's been lots of minuses to hit, you're going to need to maximize your output on the charge.
Yeah, against the Tomb Kings, you can few things. You can attack the leadership to stop them resurrecting at least as much. That's sort of useful. You can obviously, the main thing with the Tomb Kings is they're weak to level 4s, stopping their own spells because they're only level 2s. So if you can get a level 4 with a good anti-dispel item into range and keep it alive, which is probably the most difficult thing, but if it can stay alive, you're going to shut down their spells. And if you can shut the spells down, the unit is not that quick, although it's quicker than it looks, and it doesn't do that much damage over the course of just a single turn of shooting. Like it can be mitigated a little bit. Like for example, if you put some dogs or something cheap in the way, block a lot of its line of sight, it can only shoot maybe a few of its ranks at a target, or it has to shoot its entire 100 shots or whatever it is into some dogs, which you don't care about as much.
So because I was thinking on the drive home today actually about the vampire count matchup with this royal court with the cohort list. That could I see that as being quite difficult, because I see a lot of people take blood knights, which, as we talked about, 2-up saves is quite a pain for it, and also you can be quite quick in vampires, but also fighting other undead stuff with a chaff like zombies, graveguard, which can come back alive, because it's quite based on chip damage. That unit is going to really struggle to get through those before the units get res back up again, and because they can nerf down your leadership, you're going to struggle to res back with your leadership 7 priests. Even with a reroll, they're going to struggle to heal back the units as much as the potential that the vampires can grind it down with screams, because they've got like 2 or 3 screams these days, and then a big block of blood knights probably in the side of you as well, in your flank, if you're held up at the front with some other rubbish units. I think the vampire count army game could be quite tough.
Yeah, vampires are very good. They've always been quite good in Tomb Kings if they don't run caskets. Caskets is the number one problem for for vampires. If you haven't got caskets, which they don't take in this list, it's a lot easier to deal with, because you don't have that damage that's going to just blow through those blood knights. So Graveguard are very strong into the cohort. They can turn off regen with the cleaving blow. They're quite survivable with the regen and the heavy armor. Like, you don't care as much. Like the little shooting damage is not going to kill more than like 5 to 10 a turn. And obviously, if you've got 2 level 4s, you're going to bring them back very quickly. Zombies are good at blocking line of sight, but they are not good at. They're not good. You don't want to put zombies into that unit because the stand and shoot will just rack up too much combat res.
Yeah, you don't want to put zombies in with they're anything else. I think zombies are just going to be the roadblock, but I was thinking more like the Graveguard in the front with the Drakenhof banner to keep them more alive,
Yeah.
and then the Blood Knights smacking in from the side. I mean, Blood Knights in the front probably is fine as well. Keep challenging out the Tomb King, maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah, the Blood Knights in the side will absolutely, because they're very good at grinding. They're really actually quite
yeah,
strong
exactly,
grinding.
yeah, and they're not going to get hurt back that easily.
No.
But especially if the vampire lists are changing, taking just the one Mortis engine, then maybe another level 4 on foot. Because then Mortis engine with what? Has it got a 4-up save naturally, or is it 5-up?
4-up armor save, yeah.
So if you're taking the one, it's got a 4-up save, 4-up ward save, 5+ regen.
Mhm.
So and it's a large target, isn't it? So you need to do like 12, 24.
It's got 18. It's got 8 wounds, so it'd be.
She needs to do 48. You need to force 48 saves on it, I believe, to kill it. Which in a turn, which you're just not going to do, are you? Even with 100 poison shots. So what's
No, covers 5. No, so you shouldn't do, but you can definitely hurt it. The good thing if it's so there's two choices. If you have it as a general, the command range of it is 18, so it's actually very easy to stay out of that poison shooting range by being really far away from the rest of your army, being 18 away from your front line, so that they have to teleport 6 away from your front lines. You're then 18 from there, 18.1, and then you can't be shot at that point. So you're pretty safe. Or if you want to just take a couple of rank shooting, that's not a problem. The second engine, which people are running, is much weaker because it has to be much closer. So I think the one engine probably is the way to go at the moment if you're going to take Tomb King, Vampire Counts. It also lets you take the BSB quite easily, which is the BSB is quite strong at the moment anyway. And so being able to take that to help against caskets and things, the reroll is pretty good.
Yeah, and for your resurrectings as well.
Yeah, so you end up with a list with pretty much everything you want. You just drop the engine to basically pay for a unit of
10 Blood Knights,
basically, and get Blood Knights. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the list we was messing around with was like 10 Blood Knights with the one Mortis engine, another level 4 on foot, and a big that buff the graveyard unit up to be unacceptable.
Yeah, you can take, and there's options you can take of item wise. Like, for example, Skull Staff is actually a really nice item, which people don't really take very often. But
what Skull Staff do?
+3 to range spells and +1 to dispel, so it's a very strong item.
Like oak and stave, but from everywhere.
Yeah, so it's not as good, but it's still really nice. And
is that the same?
No, oak and stave is roll 3d6, drop the lowest.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought it was +3 inch range if you're within.
It's that as well. It's that as well. It gets range as well. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's like the best item.
That's why they call it broken stave. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so people are now probably coming up with some answers. Then, if they're thinking of serious competitive tournaments, then it might be coming up for them if this is going to be a problem. So it's interesting that people complain about dragons. People have found an answer for dragons in a way, and the meta's turning. So that shows me, a bit of a healthy game, as it were. Because then, this won't last forever. Something will come around. It'll be an easy counter that no one's thought of just yet, and we'll keep on going. So that's I quite enjoy. It's quite fun. It's enjoyable. It's list writing, which we all love. So to finish off this, then, looking at the top armies and how they're doing with all of this. Obviously, Tomb Kings are still right up there at the top as they be able to adapt to all this. What are we thinking about with like Wood Elves and the like that? Is the meta still changed at all with Bretonnians being at the top? Recently, this weekend, have we seen Bretonnians do well at any tournaments? I don't remember seeing any.
No, but I think people have stopped a little bit playing them because they're definitely not as easy as they look to play, and I think they're very strong if you just play like normal Warhammer. But if you play some of these more extreme ones, yeah, like in like ranks of small units and things. But I think if you're playing some of these extreme armies, they're not actually that easy to play against Bretonnians. They have lots of weaknesses. They really don't like also undead. Undead is really difficult for Bretonnians.
Because can't break it in the first turn of combat.
Yeah, and caskets and screams are like their worst nightmare.
Something interesting I saw this weekend from some of the tournaments around the globe was Dark Elves doing really well. I quite like that. The double dragons kicked off. Thank you for
It
that.
started a bit of a revolution.
Yeah, it's nice to see that people at the start were just nobody was playing Dark Elves. You couldn't see them
Mhm.
at all, and now they seem to be doing quite well, which is
Yeah.
nice.
It's good.
But Bretonians dotted around still, but yeah, not seeing them.
I
There was
think
a
you'll
period
start seeing them, like I say, like Ramsey was saying, a massive unit of Pegasus Knights with the No Stone and Shoot banner, the Banner of Shallons, I think it's called,
Yeah.
and the reroll hits. I think if these like units become really really big, I think you'll see a lot of that.
Yeah, that'd be
It's
interesting to see.
yeah, for sure.
And what else is there? Chaos seemed to be again. Sam seen any triple dragon lists like we spoke about a fair few episodes ago. Not seen any of those since then, really, which is a shame. But still, chaos seems to be popular. A lot of people are now turning to
It's
the
not a
more
shame.
well. Everyone
It's
loves
not a
it.
No, you can have too many dragons. Too many dragons is It's
People
good.
seem to
It's
be
good. There's a change.
people seem to be turning to these sort of double level 4 sorcerers in blocks of knights and stuff. What's your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
people trying to make the most out of the core. I think the core is the weakness of Chaos. I know some people really rate the Forsaken and Chaos Knights, and they're okay. Like, but their issues, they're just that they need a lot of buffing up to be good. And the Chaos Knights are pretty good if they're buffed up. They're
Oh
probably
yeah,
the best. They're probably the best core unit they've got. I think Forsaken are fine, but they don't have that many buffs that you can apply to them. So I think people are trying to run the Chaos Knights as a pretty good big brick, and then they're going to try and support them with Dragon Ogres. Chaos Spawn are not terrible. I mean, they're a bit weak to poison shooting, but they're still, for their points, are quite efficient into everything else.
yeah,
So perhaps you can afford to take one or two of them. Know they're going to die, but at least they'll take up a whole volley of shooting, whereas then the rest of their army maybe gets in. And the other matches, they're very strong, so they're really efficient. So yeah, I think Chaos are in a good spot. Actually. I think Chaos are quite strong. Are they the best into things like Wood Elves? No, but they can play. They have an option to play them because the spawn are annoying to deal with for Wood Elves, and so are the Dragon Ogres.
by spawn, do you mean gigantic spawn or do you mean regular spawn?
Yeah, the giant spawn. Yeah, definitely giant. I don't know. I've never seen a regular spawn on the table.
Yeah, it's because random movement is a pain.
Yeah, unpredictable.
Okay. Well, I think that about does it for time for us today.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an interesting one with the last week's worth of changes, I think, with armies and how the meta's progressing and what everyone's trying to do about it. Seeing all these people scrambling, writing new lists, I think it's really interesting to see some of the chats we're involved in. And I can't wait to see some of the tournaments coming up this weekend. And I don't think anything will change really much this weekend, but probably the following weekends after. I know certainly I'm going to try and head to a tournament at Borden Brum at the end of the month. It's just a 1 day at 2,000 points. So I'd be interested to see what comes up there. Usually they get quite a good showing at those tournaments there, the Mids GT ones. So I'll be trying to put some lists together to take to that. Hopefully it's not the Royal Host, but it might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, any final thoughts, guys, before we sign this off?
No,
No, not really. No.
Uh,
Just if there's any thoughts out there on the Royal Host about whether you think it's stupid or really good, just leave a comment. And again, the feedback's been really helpful as well. I know we had some issues with audio in the last video. We're trying to correct that. But it's a slow process. We're not professional guys. I don't know if you know this. Clearly, we're not. We don't. This is not like a job. We have families and jobs, and this is just a bit of fun, really. So you have to bear with us a little bit.
it's nice just to get everyone's thoughts out there and have a chat really of what we're doing most nights anyway,
Absolutely.
chatting about the game and our hobby that we all enjoy and
Mhm.
the different sides of the game. But yeah, we're always trying to improve and make things a bit more better quality and more interesting. So yeah, if anyone's got any experiences they've had with anything we spoke about today, with armies, anything changes they see, anything that's fun and exciting, but also how to improve audio, then yeah, let us know. But apart from that, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
bye.
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 Bye.